That's a nice way to start off, isn't it? Yeah, a rant of how I see it. You know, the more I look and a lot of stuff I listen to and things I read, being aware of what's going on around me in society, there's a lot of things that I found myself agreeing with David Icke more than I thought I ever would. A lot of different areas. Don't get me wrong. I still feel that David Icke is a tool, an agent. Okay, but I think he's telling a whole lot of truth in a lot of areas. I think our society is probably going to say you're nuts. And I've always felt a certain way when it comes to this. No, I don't think I'm particularly nuts, and I don't think he's particularly nuts. Because when I look over the aspect of things, first off, our so called religion, our belief in a God. Do I believe we have a creator? Yes, I do. Okay, do I believe what's been fed to us? No, I don't. Not at all. There's too many loopholes in it. Too many things that don't add up. It says it's BS that you're being lied to. That's right. Totally being lied to. So, when it comes to the Bible and what's wrote, man wrote. That's right. Created for us to read a belief system. And then we talking about what's going on in today's society. Whether it's the dating scene, whether it's world politics, whether it's the wars that's going on. The one thing I do see though is this: we have no way of backing up anything concretely, but just supposing that there was already a race of beings on this planet, or maybe a race of beings that a life form that existed on another planet, and something happened catastrophic, blah blah blah, whatever, and they relocated here. I wouldn't know that. And I said, I know this totally sounds nuts, right? I would agree. This sounds like complete insanity. But actually, in reality, when I think about it, we look at our galaxy and we look at what's going on around us and we look at all life forms we have just on this planet. And we realize that there's planets and planets and planets and the up in outer space that just goes on forever and ever and ever. Okay, so to say that there could not be possibly a life form on another planet, I agree with David Icke. Absolutely ridiculous statement. You have no way of proving what you're saying is true. And I think it's complete insanity. So I would agree with David Icke there. When I think about consciousness and I think about the stuff that he's talking about, okay, your consciousness and frequencies and how our brain works, I agree with him. When it comes to electric, I agree with him because let's look at reality. We already know, and it's been proven, even with scientists in the medical industry, that half of your heart runs on gases and the other half runs on electricity. So, unless you have an energized battery plugged into your ass that you change once a month with a Duracell or Energizer, or unless you're plugging in and charging up, where are you getting the electricity that goes into that side of that heart? Okay, so there's already electric in us to begin with. And the brain decodes like a computer, so you don't hear a sound and you don't see nothing without the brain decoding it for you to see it, the reality you're living in, or the illusion that's being fed to you. I agree with David Icke on a lot of these things because of my own life experiences. And because of being aware of what's going on around me, Okay, being aware of the agendas that our elite at the top have orchestrated for us. And the more aware I become, the more research I do, the more I look, the deeper down I go. And so I have to agree with some of this stuff because it just makes too much sense, even from my own life experiences. The house I grew up in was haunted. Things happened there. Throughout my life, at different stages of my life, I've dealt with paranormal that I knew was paranormal. And I think about this stuff, no different than when my grandma passed away and my neighbor Jack and Helena had went over and I had couple of cats at the time. She had four cats and I wanted to ask her if she'd babysit my cats while we were gone. We were going to be gone 3 or 4 days because we had to travel to get to the funeral and blah, blah, blah. And she had no problem with it. She was an animal lover. She had her dog. She had her cats. She loved animals. Give her the key to my home and she'd come over when we were gone and took care of the cats. And when I come back, of course, I go next door to get the keys. And she says, Bill, I got to tell you something. And she was dead serious. And her husband, Jack, started screaming at the top of her lungs to her, telling her, You don't say a damn thing. You're completely nuts, and just cussing her out. And he was dead serious. And she started yelling at him. And I was like, Oh my God, drama. I didn't come over here for this. Right. Then she says, I'm telling him anyhow. And she proceeded to tell me my house was haunted that I was living in. Well, I already knew there was something crazy going on in that house. It was stuff that reminded me of the house I grew up in. Same type of things were happening, and I was really okay. And so she proceeds to tell me, I went over and the cats met me at the landing, and I took them down in there. And this was a basement house, by the way. And I noticed all the doors were open and all the cupboards were open. So I went around and shut all the cupboards and shut the bedroom doors and bathroom doors and sat down on the couch and petted and paid attention to the cats for around, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes. Fed them, gave them water, and loved them up and left. And I came back that afternoon the same day, and all the cupboard doors and bedroom doors were open again. She says, so I proceeded to shut them, and this time I pulled and made sure they were all latched. And then I shut the bedroom doors and pushed to make sure they were latched. She says, and I did the same thing. I sat down, petted them, loved them on them, and fed them and watered them, and went on my way. And I come back the next morning. The cats were meeting me on the landing again, and they looked like they were panicked. And all the cupboard doors were open, and the bedroom doors were open once again. There's no way the cats could have done this. Your house is haunted, she tells me. I says, okay. And I went home and I proceeded. The heat was down. It was winter time. And I'd kicked the thermostat down some and I kicked it back up a little bit. And I thought, well, it's a little bit cool in here. Let me go in the closet and get a long sleeve shirt or sweater to throw on. Okay, so I went in my bedroom and my closet was a 2x4 framed closet with paneling on the outside, and the inside was still the 2x4 studs because it was never finished. Had a steel rod going from one side to the other in the center of the closet. And I reached up there and was sliding stuff over to get to a shirt or sweater when sparks come flying off that damn thing, burned my arm, gave me a burn on my arm, popped the breaker and the light went off, and then light went out in the hallway and the bathroom light and all those lights went off, and it popped the breaker. And I thought, really? And so I says, okay, let me go reset the breaker. And I found the box, reset the breaker, come back in there, and I'm looking for the line that has shorted on the clothes hanger that I was sliding or what I made contact with to blow that breaker. Then I got the surprise of my life. There was no electric on that wall whatsoever. Matter of fact, on the opposite side of the wall was the kitchen sink. But not on that particular wall was no electric. Okay, the wall adjacent to it into my kitchen had electric on it, but the wall where the sink was had no electric on it. And the closet had no electric, no wiring, no nothing. And I checked the ceiling and I went up into the attic, no wiring, nothing. So there's no wiring on that entire wall, but yet I popped the breaker by sliding clothes hangers over and got burned on my arm. I panicked, I freaked out when I realized what I was really seeing. And we had a waterbed. We had a king size waterbed, and I was with my ex at that time, my son's mother, and this was before he was born. I looked at her and says, "We're not sleeping on the waterbed." And she says, "What?" I says, "We will camp out on the floor." And I pulled out sleeping bags and some foam. She says, "Why?" And I says, "Let's think about this a moment. Electricity is where it cannot be. There is absolutely no wiring. And I just took the breaker in the breaker box, sliding hangers over on a rod where there's no electricity." I says, "What's to stop that waterbed from springing a leak in the middle of the night and electric showing up where it don't belong? I don't care to be fried, so I think I'll sleep on the floor. So I will replace the bed." And she, okay, that's where we was for a little over 2 weeks. And before I got another bed and drained that waterbed and got rid of it. Okay. During that time, I did a lot of thinking about what my neighbors said, stuff I'd experienced in the house. Okay, so paranormal, yeah, right? And this stuff really happened. So I turned around and decided, okay, I don't know exactly what's going on, but it's a ghost or something really crazy, right? And then the one night after I'd set up the new bed, I laid down to go to sleep, closed my eyes, and it was like watching a TV set. I wasn't even asleep. I just closed my eyes. I'm wide awake with my eyes closed and I'm watching a TV set, really. And it was a video that played in my mind, just like watching your TV. And what this video was my deceased brother. My youngest brother died at the age of 25. And this little video was playing my deceased brother in the current house I'm in, which he had no way of being in because when he passed away, we were in Colorado and we're in Nebraska. Okay. But it was of him following me and my ex out the door and getting in the car with us when we were going to work. And about that time, my gut feeling went off, and my brain says, "My brother, who's been haunting the house? My brother, right?" And then I thought about it as I'm laying there awake now with my eyes open and that feeling going off in my gut. And I remembered when my mother came up and visited. She slept in the one room and she'd put her clothes out of the suitcase into a spare dresser we had. She was there for like 2.5, 3 weeks. And so, anyhow, we had taken her and her sister up to Colorado into the mountains. Her sister had never been there. So, we took her sister before she passed away so she could see the mountains. And we took her up into Colorado, up to the Rockies, and showed her the mountains and drove her around. And then we went back to Nebraska. Spent the day gone. We come in the house. She went into the bedroom she was staying in, and the dresser drawers were all open, and all the clothes of hers was out of the dresser and all over the room. Well, there's no way the cat's done that, okay? And I remembered that. And then I thought about my brother, the one that was deceased. See, when he was younger, he was a workaholic and he got epilepsy and was unable to work. And we were living in a mobile home at the time in Colorado. When he decided he was killing himself and he sprayed lighter fluid all over the room my mom slept in, and all the way down the hallway and into the living room, and then lit the fire in the middle of a snowstorm in the middle of the winter in Colorado. I was gone picking my mother up from work with my cousin, bringing her back home, and we had to work graveyards. So we would drop her off and take off and go to work ourselves. So we went to drop her off. We pull in the park, and the cul-de-sac before mine, there was a bunch of fire trucks down there. And I said, wow, somebody's place is on fire. And I get up to the next street, which is my cul-de-sac, and there's 5 times more fire trucks. And I'm like, oh shit. And I'm thinking, hope it ain't my place. And I go around this truck and wham, it's in my face. It's my place. I didn't even cry or anything. I was in shock and I started laughing. My cousins started laughing. It was snowing like hell out. So, needless to say, we took my mother across town and dropped her at my brother's house, and we went to work. We got about 8 inches of snow that night. And I freaking turned around in the morning when I got off of work, and I took my ass straight to that trailer park to see what was left of that mobile home. Well, we had the only lawn that didn't have no snow on it. And the neighbor's lawn on the backside where his shed would have no snow on it. And his shed was burned down because the fire did that to the neighbor's shed. And this mobile home, where the doors was melted and modded doorknobs on the floor. Okay, and everything was guttered. The refrigerator doors were buckled. A bicycle my brother had was twisted and molded and buckled. And I had like 2 cartons of cigarettes in the cupboard. They were chain smoked by the fire. Okay. And I went back to where my mom's room was, and it was an outside patio. The investigation showed the fire started in that room. That was the hardest part of the fire. And then I'd figured out my brother. See, my brother blamed my mom for my dad and her divorce. He was super, super young when they divorced, and he actually blamed my mother for the divorce. And while he was growing up, every time my dad would show up out of town to visit, my brother John would go do something crazy when he left. Every single time. So then I got thinking about my mom and the clothes thrown all over the room, the little video images that played in my head, and my gut feeling telling me the house was haunted by my deceased brother, and nothing ever happened in that house again. No lie, factual. Nothing ever happened in that house again. It was as quiet as could be. So then my message to me was that the reason that little thing happened, where it was like the video playing in my mind, was it was my brother's way of telling me goodbye, that he was leaving. And I don't know so much that he was the one that put the electricity in the rod that burned me in the arm and scared the bejeebus out of me when I found no electricity on the wall. But I think that was his way of letting me know it was him that was in the house. And the reason it was mimicking the house I grew up in is because he grew up in that same house and remembered the shit that happened like I do. And he was copying it. Okay. And so, no, I do believe there's life after death. And David Icke has brought a lot of knowledge. And for years, I wouldn't watch David Icke. I'd done all this research on my own, and I'd caught on Alex Jones's line and all this crap, right? And I knew that David Icke was an agent of Planet Shield. I'd heard he talked about aliens and all this good crap, so I wouldn't watch the stuff. Avoided him like the plague. Well, then Mark Passio went to this thing over in Mexico, and Mark Passio mentioned on his thing, and I watched Mark Passio. Mark Passio reminds me of myself. Okay, I watched Mark Passio. I could tell the guy's being honest with you. I'm honest myself. I'm not going to bullshit you. So I'm watching Mark Passio, and Mark Passio, beginning of one of his live shows, he talked about when he went over there, and he talked about David Icke and how he likes David Icke, and my own mind is like David Icke is a plant, but then are you a plant, Mark Passio? But then I have nothing to back that up with, right? So I suspect this stuff, but I don't talk about it because I can't confirm one way or the other, right? So I decided let's listen to some of David Icke's material, which I've never done. Okay, and I've just spent the last 4 days watching hours and hours and hours of David Icke. So much stuff I already knew. So much stuff he was spot on with. I already knew, okay? But when he got to the frequencies and the way the brain decodes it, and when he got to the reptilians, and I remember how they've bragged for years now, people at the top, that they would tell us what they were going to do and then they would do it and we would do nothing about it. And I got thinking about, I wonder if it's possible that there was another race, another life form that lived on this planet before humans were here. You can't say there wasn't, because I'll tell you what, the Bible story is complete hogwash. I know this because there's too many loopholes in it. And if you're just going to go along with the loopholes and just turn your head and look the other way, okay, or make out some cop out to go around that loophole, then you're just being ignorant to yourself, because ignorance is bliss. And if you use critical thinking skills, then you realize that you're being lied to. And when you realize you're being lied to, then you look around you and you see the media lying to you regularly. You see your school system lying to you regularly. You see all of your world, everything that I've said from the time we were children growing up. And he said some very strong things that rang home. That just rang home with me. It made sense out of a lot of things, different things that's happened in my life and my awarenesses of things. It totally made sense of it. And I was like, wow, maybe I should have listened to this guy a little more a long time ago. Instead, I labeled him as a kook, like so many people did. But then I was a kook, wasn't I? I sure was. I was a nut job. I talked about a conspiracy theory and I done my research and found that TFL is real and exists, so I must be a nut. There's millions of men who can't get a woman in their life, so they must all be nuts, right? No, not at all. And then when you seriously really back up and start thinking about things, it starts dawning on you. There's so much lying going on for so long. I would agree with David Icke. It's like a stamp. We are programmed in a very fine narrowness, and our reality is what we've been programmed. And they don't want your consciousness, your awareness, to go outside of that fine line, because then you might become aware of what's really going on in this world. And my awareness has always been there. And I question things all the time. And I get thinking about this stuff and with the frequencies and decoding it, and your heart having electricity in it, and the medical industry and big pharma, and what they've done with me. It's all been factual evidence how correct this stuff is. And so, not saying I believe in everything he says, because there is some stuff I see in David Icke, like he was on Jason Goodman's show, and I can't concretely prove this, but let's just do some math. 2 plus 2 equals 4, not 3 and not 5. Y'all know this, right? So let's do some math. Jason Goodman just happens to come from Hollywood. Jason Goodman just happens to be the guy that invented the inventor of the camera that they used to film things that could put things in the video, in the film, that was never there. That's right. Jason Goodman happens to be that creator. He's the one that invented the camera Hollywood uses that can put things in a video that was never there. And so when I think about that, when I really think about that, and you looked up Jason Goodman's where he lives, well, the guy lives in a 4 point something million dollar estate that on the roof, the building he lives in, he can go to the roof. It's in an outside patio and it's a secured building. It's high dollar. It's in the most expensive part of New York. And from his roof, he would have overlooked the trade centers, the Twin Towers. And what do we know about 9/11? There was no planes that hit them buildings, that them were illusions. Well, by golly, Mr. Hollywood himself, who invented the camera to put things in the videos that isn't there, just happens to live in a spot where all he's got to do is go to his roof on his patio with his newly invented camera that made him rich in Hollywood and video the trade centers and put planes hitting the towers that were never there and sell it. So my feelings with Jason Goodman is this guy was involved in 9/11. And he's up here lying to everybody and deceiving them. And here's David Icke sitting on his show not even a week ago that this came out. So I'm going, I've always suspected he was. And now here he is with. Yeah. But that don't take away from truth. You need to understand that. People like this tell you a whole bunch of truth, and you got to be aware of stuff that would be BS. I don't buy David Icke's story of how he got his knowledge and what caused him to go on his journey. That's BS. I don't buy it at all. I don't buy some of the other stuff along the way as I'm watching this that he says, because I'm already awake and I've done a lot of research and I'm aware that no, that's BS. But that man has spoke one hell of a lot of truth. And he said some things that resonates with me, that connects, that explains things that's happened in my life. So I'm going to say I've always felt there's a good chance that there's other life forms. For us to say that there's no other life form anywhere else in the galaxy, you have to be crazy to even say that, because you have no way of backing that up. No more than I can back up there is, you can't back up there ain't. So therefore, you have to sit on a fence with it. I've always felt there's probably other life forms on other planets, because why would we be the only planet, for one? For two, we didn't create animals, and look at all the different animals you got. Look at the fish in the sea. It's just common sense. And if we're taking a rocket and we were going out to space, who says another technology on another planet couldn't be traveling the galaxy that was light years ahead of us? Nobody can say that, because you can't prove it is or ain't. Neither can I. Okay? But you know what? It makes sense. What if David Icke is right? What if of what's actually controlling us at the very top of the pyramid would be extraterrestrial? What we would call an alien life form. Or one of it would be people, a very small group that nobody knows about, that are being controlled through some extraterrestrial life form. Do we know this for sure? No, we don't. See, so I have to sit on a fence with that. I'm not going to say it's true, and I'm not going to say it's not true. Do you understand where I'm coming from? I refuse to say it's true and I refuse to say it's not true. I got thinking about that movie that I saw where I did the video and I showed you some scenes, and these were reptilians. And then I got thinking, David Icke, so did they make this movie based on what David Icke was talking about? Or did David Icke talk about it based on the movie? But then I thought, well, but the movie's from 2018. So maybe they copied David Icke. Then again, maybe they were actually shoving truth in your face again. And that just maybe there is a reptilian race. I'm not saying there is. I can't back that up. And I'm not going to say there ain't. Okay? I don't care what you think about me. I honestly don't. So if you want to call me nuts, you just go right ahead. You all called me nuts when I told you the TFL. I was attacked hard for a bunch of years over TFL, True Force Loneliness. There was no such thing. I was a nut job, remember? And I'm still here. And there's millions of men living it. But I'm a nut job, and all these millions of men living are nut jobs because we don't have division. But then if you look into Agenda 21, which I've done, David Icke's right, because I knew all about all this stuff already. He told you, he put it in your face, the family breakdown, the dumbing down of America. See, this is why I'm saying, I spent hours and hours for the last few days watching David Icke, thanks to Mark Passio. Okay? Because I like Mark Passio enough that I wanted, okay, I've never watched this guy before because I felt that the guy was out there, way out there. And so I didn't watch his stuff. But when Mark Passio said what he said, and I've been watching Mark Passio, and he reminds me of me, and I can see the honesty in him, then there has to be a reason he's talking about he stands besides David Icke outside of being just a shill. And I'm not going to say Mark Passio is, but I'm not going to say he ain't neither. But I like Mark Passio. I respect him. I think the man has very honest with us, and I'm not saying he's a shill. David Icke, I've suspected is a shill, an agent, a plant for many years, and I still do, especially since he went on Mr. Goodman's show. That's just more confirmation that the guy's a plant. But that does not, like I said, take away from truth. Because as I listen to him, a lot of stuff I already know to be factual truth. A lot. David Icke is spilling the same thing that I've already found out to be true. He's not lying. Okay? So, and I found some things that I know he's lying about, but that don't discredit all the stuff that he said. And he gave me another lightning when it came to how the brain processes code, and that's how we see and that's how we hear. And when he talked about the reptilians, and he talked about the actual people at the top of the pyramid are being controlled by something you can't see, another dimension, an entity of another life form from another dimension. And I think about my experiences of growing up in a haunted house, of my experiences with my deceased brother, my experiences at the country club when I was working there. And I think about the different experiences I had in my life, and I apply what David Icke has said, and it says, bam, it resonated, man, it clicked. It was right there. It was in my head right away. It was like, wow, I just made sense on a lot of this stuff. Okay? So, I thank him for that. I really do. Because that's what it's like. So I wanted to come up here and do a little bit of a rant about this because I don't care what people think of me. Okay? I agree with David Icke to say there's no such thing as another life form. You have to be lunatic, so you might as well sit on a fence because you can't back that statement, which means you're willing to just run PS out your mouth. If you're going to say, no, I'm nuts, then I want you to show me the proof. And I mean concrete evidence. And when you get mad at me because you can't show me that, then maybe you should look in the mirror. Because, see, I'm not going to say there is, but I'm not also not going to say there ain't. But I am going to say my life experiences and stuff that I've heard out of Mr. Icke resonates and hits home for me. And made sense out of things that I couldn't make sense out of. So, that's where I stand. I think David Icke is meaning well. I think he's just like any other Asian or Shiel. He's telling one hell of a lot of truth. There's a percent of garbage in there, but there's also more truth than garbage. And I think he could get a real good learning from David Icke on a lot of stuff that's actually really taking place. I think he's correct about what's going on in this world. And I think they are recreating Hunger Games. And that is the society they want us living in. And I think they flash the movies in your face to condition you for that type of a world. It's psychotic and it's sick. And a lot of the agendas that they're planning are coming from complete psychopaths who have no empathy, who don't have care like I do. I would be their worst enemy. And I got thinking of how far down the rabbit hole the Rothschilds are. When you dig into this, how far up the pyramid the bankers really are on the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds are deeper in the pyramid than the Rockefellers. And I got thinking about that and remembering back in the day when I got attacked by a Rothschild. And of course, like always, everybody around wanted to deny that and say I'm nuts and call me names and say, there ain't no way and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? I don't care what they say. It doesn't matter to me what they say. Why don't it? Because you wasn't there. Because maybe you're jealous because it happened to me and not you. Maybe your ego's flying high and you think you're better, smarter, whatever. I don't care. I know what happened to me. And I know for a fact it was a Rothschild. And I don't care what you say. You can tell me I'm nuts to your blue in the face and you don't affect me any. Because you wasn't there. It's like me telling you you're nuts about something that happened in your house. That I wasn't in your home. It happened right in front of your face. And I'm going to tell you you're nuts. Who am I to tell you you're nuts? I wasn't there. I would be a nut job doing that. So, and I think it is very important that people get their heads out of there, you know what? And start trying to unprogram themselves. I would totally agree with that. Stop paying attention to smart and start paying attention to a little more of who is moral. That's what I've been saying. Well, I would agree with that. I stand with you on that. I think people need to pay attention to moral. People need to actually practice care, empathy, true compassion and care for other people you don't even know. Because by doing that and recognizing right from wrong, you can overturn the programming. You can actually cause yourself to become a whole lot better person. And if people mimicked after you, they would become better people. And the more people that would do that, the more people would become better people. And with that, more awareness will come to you of what's really going on. But if we don't step up to the plate and do something soon, you're going to be living in a Hunger Game world. You're going to be living in, you're already living in an Orwellian society. They're already taking more rights away from you every day, and you're on your way to losing your freedom of speech. Whether you believe it or not, David Icke is right about that. You are very much on your way to losing your First Amendment. So, and if you want to continue to have your First Amendment rights and you want to continue to have your illusion that you're free, then maybe people better stand up to the plate while they still have their illusion before they don't got even that. And in the manosphere, it's way out of control. You're going along with agendas for population reduction, NWO, and don't even know you are. And you can turn your back and look the other way and talk about other things and move on like it don't exist, but that don't make it go away. That just becomes complicit. That only allows it to progressively happen. That's all that does. It don't make the problem go away. You're allowing the problem to happen. And that's what I see going on. We're all falling into the social engineering. We become scared and don't want to do because of peer pressure. Even when you're an adult, you're going to tell me you ain't under peer pressure? Oh, yeah, you are. You're an adult worried about what somebody else thinks about you. You know how many adults I've seen that are worried about what somebody else thinks of them? Just like a child. And when you worry about what somebody else thinks of you, you're actually being your own worst enemy. You really are. And I can't help you any. You have to help you. I can tell you and give you tools that will help you to help you, but you have to do the work to do that. I can't do it for you. And see, I've got to work on my ability to care because I've had that ability for years, my whole life. And I still do. That's the reason I keep coming back. That's the reason I'm here to begin with, is because I do care. See, I don't hate people I don't know, even held by the dashboard light. The guy hates me and he don't even know me. I don't dislike him or hate him because I disagree. No, not at all. And this is just the crux of it. But I can tell you just by his own actions, because actions speak louder than words, that he hates me and he don't even know me. Sad, really is. I try to bring the manosphere together because we need to be brought together. We need a whole lot more than just the manosphere brought together. We need people to be aware of what's going on really in their world around them. We need you to be able to unprogram yourself from all the BS. And the best way to do that is start having care. Because if you can care for somebody you don't even know, you're headed the right way, man. You're going down the right road. And if you can recognize right from wrong and don't do unto others that you wouldn't want done unto yourself, you're headed down the right road, man. You really are. And this is where we need to go. People need to start going down the right road and stop following all the illusions, all of the fakery that's being put in our face. And greed, I think about our monetary system and oh my God, I pissed people off for years with that one. Because if I was in control of the monetary system, nobody would be out earning nobody. Everybody on this planet would have the exact same income, but they would be well paid so that they could afford anything they ever needed. If the car broke down, they wouldn't be in a situation. They would never be hungry. There would be no such thing as GMO foods. I'd do away with all the evil, and it would be about care, and everybody would have a very fair income. And nobody would be able to rise above a certain point because I wouldn't want society to repeat what it's already done. So you can't let people, you have to set a line, a fine line, to where people are allowed to be wealthy, they're allowed to have, but there's a certain point they can't cross, then they're not allowed to have. No more. They can't rise in wealth above a certain level, which makes an even playing field for everybody. And believe me, I would be very generous to make sure everybody was well paid, okay, for what they do. And it'd be the same amount for everybody. And I know I piss people off when I say that. But to do that would stop so much division. It would stop people from looking down on other people. Divide and conquer. That thing I've been fighting against for years? Division. That's where I come from with that. So, but I piss people off with that because so many people, well, yeah, but that person who does this should have more. No, he shouldn't. Nope. This is where care comes in. See, caring about somebody else as much as you care about yourself. Somebody you don't even know as much as you care about yourself. See? Now, maybe you'll have an understanding of why I say what I say. Huh? Of course, I'm not in that position, now am I? I can't do that. If I could, I would, but then I'd probably be shot dead by the evil in our society. Because the evil in our society wouldn't want that because they want to be above somebody else. Isn't that right? They want to think they're better and smarter and above. They don't want to be on an even playing field. They like their corruption. And them are the parasites, as far as I'm concerned. Them are the parasites of our planet. They contribute to the situation we're in. Anyhow, I don't think there's a lot more I can say about this, but I did want to come up here a little bit today and have a little bit of a rant. And so I would suggest if you haven't watched David Icke, then maybe you should watch him. Okay? I really do. Just like you watch Mark Passio. I've been sending people to Mark Passio for a long time, and there's a lot of people that don't want to go to Mark Passio or David Icke. They want to stay ignorant. They want to stay blitzed to what's going on around them because it scares the bejeebus out of them. But then that means you're complicit. That means you agree with having your own enslavement. That means you're not going to be offended by one day when they crash the society and take all of your money out from underneath you. You're not going to be offended by them telling you what color to shit today, excuse my language, and how high to jump. You're not going to be offended by being ordered around and told what you can do and living in poverty in a tight little fucking little small dinky room for the rest of your life. While these people live in their big mansions and have all the real good food and have their luxury life right in front of you, while you'll have nothing, but you'll break your butt to keep that little dinky space and have nothing. And if you agree with that kind of lifestyle, then that means that's what you agree with. And when you say you don't want to know this stuff because it scares you, you say, I agree with living that kind of lifestyle. I have no problems with another human being wearing the pants over the top of my ass, living in a mansion, having the best of everything, while you live in a little freaking 5x5 or 10x10 fucking room with two other people, and you work your ass off 16-hour days just to keep that little 10x10 room and barely have anything to survive with and eat leftovers and scraps. And if that's what you want, then you just go ahead and be complicit. You just go ahead and not care about what's going on around you. And that's what you shall have. Because when these people are through, it'll be because of people like you that refuse to look into anything, that refuse to do the right thing. So I hope you enjoy the light that's coming your way. Because it's already been proven that it's coming your way. There's way too much that backs it up. Staggering amounts of evidence that backs it up, and changes in society and laws and stuff that's been pushed that backs up everything that's being said. And if you could be that stupid, that oblivious to turn your head to it, then you will deserve the lifestyle you're going to get. That's all I can say to you. It ain't going to matter what career you have. Your career ain't going to save you from this, because these people don't care. David Icke read about that. They don't think like me or you. I have care and I would not do. No, they do not think that way. They don't have care, and they will do. So, what can I say? But with that, I'm going to get on here for the day. But I wanted to come up and give this little rant. The censorship is no accident, because you're not supposed to speak out about these things. You're supposed to zip your mouth and bend over and get your lube out and get ready for your 10 by 10 little apartment you're going to be living in for the rest of your life, crowded with 3 other people with no room to do anything. Get ready for your total enslavement that you've been begging for. Because I was a nut job, right? You'll remember that when it comes down. Because there's so many young people right now, kids, that lives are going to be totally screwed thanks to our ignorance of not opening our eyes. So do yourself a favor. Practice caring about people you don't know. Practice recognizing right from wrong. Practice doing on others that you want done on yourself. And start looking into this stuff yourself. If you're too lazy to do that, then you deserve what you get. With that being said, I'm going to get on out of here, and you all have a good one.